Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back. Hope you're staying safe and healthy. This is the factoring, another week of factoring. One's a little bit trickier. Notice you have a number in front of the x squared. Before we would do this, we would factor these, and they were pretty quick and pretty easy. And then we had perfect square trinomials. So that might have been a 16 or a 9 or a 25, and that was a perfect square. We could factor those special types with a number in front. Now we don't. So yeah, this one's a little tricky. So the problem here is I could have you guess and check, and that would be a whole bunch of different possibilities because you've got a 3 here. It would just be crazy. In fact, if you look at the notes, in fact, I would have the notes out. Please print out the notes. If you don't have a printer, just write these out. If you look at the notes, you can see all the possible outcomes of one of these problems if I just ask you to just guess and check. But we don't want to do that. So we're going to factor by grouping again, like we did before. We're going to go back to grouping. If you're a little uneasy about that, I would encourage you to go back and watch the week 2 video on that. This is week 4. And yeah, let's just continue on. So here's the idea. We want to factor this guy into 2 binomials. We're going to factor it by grouping. By the way, when you factor by grouping, you need 4 terms. We only have 3 terms here. There's nothing we can factor out, by the way. You always want to ask yourself that. Nothing we can factor out, and 3 and 14 are not perfect squares. So there's got to be a different way to do it, and that's what we're going to do, grouping. What we're going to do is we're going to take the 3, the first number here, and we're going to multiply it by the last number here. I'll explain the y's as we go. 3 times 14 is 42. So just put a 42 off to the side. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to rewrite the 3x squared down below. Okay? And then we're going to ask ourselves this question. What are the factors of 42 that add up to 13? See, there are no factors of 14 that add up to 13. That's impossible. So we're going to borrow from the 3. We're going to take 3 times 14 to get a larger number that will have factors of 13. So we're going to take 42 and ask ourselves, what are the factors of 42? 3 times 14 is 42. The factors of 42 that add to 13 are 7 and 6. So now, in this row, instead of writing the 13x, we're going to write 7x. The order you write these doesn't matter. I always like to put the larger term first. You can put the 6x and then the 7x. That's fine. It still works. And then bring down the 14. See, we kind of just used the 42. We kind of just used it to get what we want. And now we're done with the 42, okay? It feels kind of mean, but that's how we do it. Okay, what's common here? Just these first 2 terms. You got to ask yourself, what's common? What's common here is an x. And what you're going to do now is divide by x. You're going to get 3x plus 7. And by the way, just a quick distribution, 3x squared plus 7x should be easy for you. Okay, and then plus, because these are plus signs, what's common here? Well, it looks like a 2, just a 2. So we're going to divide by 2, and we're going to get 3x plus 7. There's no surprise here, because these 2, just like we did last time, these 2 binomials have to be the same. When you get, I don't want the answer like this. Your answer is going to be the outside numbers, so x plus 2, and then you put the 3x plus 7. You only need to write that once. Why? When you distribute in the FOIL, okay, it's going to actually show up twice, but you only write it once as part of your answer. So this is our answer right here. So if you factor this guy right here, you're going to get this. The order you write these doesn't matter. You can put 3x plus 7 and then x plus 2. That's fine. All right, I'm just going to go through these one by one. Okay, take your 6 and multiply it by 5, and 30 is our magic number. By the way, there's nothing you can factor out here, nothing you can, these aren't perfect squares. I always ask those questions. Okay, move the 6x squared down. Okay, and then your factors of 30 that add up to 13 are 10 and 3. 10 and 3. So we're going to write it as, instead of writing 13x, we're going to write 10x plus 3x plus 5. Okay? One more time. We take 6 times 5 and get 30. Your factors of 30 that add up to 13 are 10 and 3. I know this is a little tricky. You just have to work your way through these. So 10 and 3. So we're going to write 13x is 10x and 3x. Now, what's common here is a 2x. So we're going to go 2x divide by 2x, you're going to get 3x plus 5. Okay? What's common in these two? Well, nothing really, but there really is a 1. So when I say nothing, there really is a 1. So you're going to put a plus 1. You can't leave it blank. You have to put something here. And when you divide by 1, you're going to get obviously the same thing, 3x plus 5. See, again, notice how the binomials are the same. So now your answer is going to be 2x plus 1 in one binomial, and then 3x plus 5 in the other, and we're done. So if you were to FOIL this or distribute this, you would get this guy up here. Okay, I'm going to move on. The good thing about a video is you can pause it, you can click and drag, and go back to the to where you were. All right, let's move on. 7, nothing can be factored out here. Nothing's perfect squares. So 7 times 6 is 42. That's our magic number. Okay, so we're going to go 7x squared. And then we want factors of 42 that add up to 43. And that's actually going to be 42 and 1. Think about that. 7 times 6 is 42. Don't worry about the x's and y's. 7 times 6 is 42. You want factors of 42 that add up to 43. Well, that's 42 and 1. See, 42 times 1 is 42. 42 plus 1 is 43. So now we're going to write it as 42xy plus 1xy. See, that's your 43xy. Add these, you get that. And then drop down the 6y squared. Once you get the hang of these, folks, it's not hard. Okay, now take these two and find out what's common. Well, what's common is a 7 and an x. 7 and an x. So divide by 7x, you're going to get x plus 6y. Just look at it for a minute. You'll see it. 7x squared plus 42xy. Okay, plus what's common here? Well, what's common here is a y. So a y, and then you divide by y, you're going to get 1x, but I can just write x plus 6y. Okay, y times x is xy, and then y times 6y is 6y squared. So notice we have the same binomials. So now when you put it together, your answer is going to be 7x plus y times x plus 6y. And ladies and gentlemen, you are done. Remember, all these can be checked using FOIL or distribution. Please check these, check these, check these. Okay, now, moving on. Now, a couple questions you got to ask yourself. Can anything be factored out? No. Are 8 and 3 perfect squares? No. But now your middle term is negative. So now we're going to have 2 minus signs in the binomial. That's all. The only change here. Same thing. 8 times 3 is 24. And because your last term is positive, we still want to find factors of 24 that add up to 14. Don't worry about the negative sign. All right, we want factors of 24 that add up to 14. And that's going to be 12 and 2. 12 and 2. So now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go 8x squared. Now we want a negative 14. So if we take a negative 12 and a negative 2, remember this sign is negative, so both these are going to be negative this time. So minus 12x minus 2x plus 3. This is where it starts getting a little trickier, so stay with me. Okay, one more time. 8 times 3 is 24. We want factors of 24 that add up to 14. We're adding because the last term is positive. So 12 plus 2, all right, negative 12 and negative 2 is negative 14. So we're going to write it like this. So now factor out what's common with these two, and that's going to be 4x. So 4x divide by 4x, and you're going to get 2x minus 3. Okay? Now, stay with me. This is a little trickier now. When this term is negative, quite often, this is going to make this a negative sign too. What you want to do here, this is where it's a little tricky. You need to find out what's common here. Well, there's nothing really in common. So like I said before, it's just a 1. Now think about this. Now you're going to divide everything by negative 1. And what you're going to get is what you had before, 2x minus 3. This might be the hardest part of this entire video here. You've got a negative here, but a positive here. So we're going to factor out a negative one. Now, when you distribute, I don't understand.